What's up, boys and girls? It's the Gypsy. I'm back at it again. Alright, what happened in this fight? I'm gonna tell you what happened. An old man fought a young man, but aside to that point, people are gonna say, oh, why did Triple G not throw so many jabs? Why did Triple G not didn't throw? Why was he nullified? I'll tell you why he was nullified. It's because Canelo has improved. Yet again, Canelo has improved greatly. He's improved from all his other fights, especially from the Bivol fight. He has learned to keep the perfect amount of distance to avoid shots like Bivol. He's learned that trick, and he applied it up until the ninth or 10th round, somewhere around that area, where then he chose to make the fight like the second fight with Triple G, so it could be entertaining for the crowd, because he realized he could not knock out Triple G. On top of which, this is a great fighter and he had respect for him. This is what happened in this fight. The thing is, if he had not done that, if he had chose to box him out like he did the first 9 rounds, it would have been a shutout. We wouldn't have been given a single round to Triple G, because I told you how good Bivol is, and he learned off of Bivol to keep a distance. Steel sharpens steel. This is the perfect example of steel sharpens steel. Not a lot of other motherfucking examples. This is the perfect example of steel sharpens steel. He learned off of Bivol to control the distance and applied his own techniques. Unlike the last 2 fights that they had, he did not do that. He didn't do that. I mean, in the first fight, he actually was running around trying to keep away because he was wary of the power of Triple G, and he should have been, because he saw what he did. He applied the same fight tactics that he did in the second fight, and he automatically got cut, only to make it entertaining for the crowd and all that kind of shit. And man, does Triple G have a fucking chin? When have you heard Canelo's hand being broken? Canelo never breaks his hand, neither does Triple G, right? Don't even fucking talk about Triple G. Triple G's a fucking beast, a monster when it comes to durability. That's why I said Kovalev is not stronger than Triple G. This man, Canelo, broke his hand on this fool, bro. Have you ever heard? I'm telling you right now. Have you ever heard of Canelo breaking his hand on an opponent? He's got a busted up knee. That's as far as I know. That he still went around and fought the second fight with a busted up knee. That's how good of a Canelo is. And you can go ahead now. Are you gonna go ahead and say, hey, Canelo, is trash, and Canelo is, didn't really fight the fight with Kovalev, didn't really fight the fight with Callum Smith, didn't fight all those guys compared to Triple G, even Bivol. Maybe not Bivol, because Bivol is younger and more fresh, but Bivol is still not as strong as Triple G is. You know what I mean? Callum Smith was weight trained, tall ass dude, and Caleb Plant also pretty big but he's fragile. Caleb Plant is fragile. I said in my last video, he's fragile. That's why Canelo wasn't really minding getting hit as much with Caleb Plant. But still, that was before the fight with Bivol. He has learned to control distance much better. And he was out jabbing the jabber by controlling the distance better. The best jabber in the game, Triple G, because he was controlling the distance, he was out jabbing Triple G, and Triple G had no answer for what was coming after he threw a jab. That's why he never threw it. I won't say never threw it. He backed away from throwing it because he was wary of getting hit in the body or getting hooked to the face with the lead hand of Canelo. And people say Canelo has no power. What happened to Triple G's face after 3 fucking rounds, bro? Murata didn't do that to fucking Triple G. He didn't. He did not do that. But one thing I can take away from this fight for Triple G is that after he at 168 he can take body shots a lot more comfortably. It was the body shots was not phasing him at 168 like he it was in 160. I've said it many times before, years back, that this guy shouldn't be fighting at 160 anymore. He should be fighting at 168. But you know why he's going back to 160, like he said, is because he knows his defensively not sound enough to fight at 168. That's why he should move down to 160. Oh, because he's got to get belts from the guys. No. Because Canelo's on top in 168. No, bro. He knows he's not defensively sound for 168. 168. He's not defensively sound, and even more so will be worse at 175, where guys hit even harder at 175. 168. I when Zerto Ramirez was around, I would probably say he was probably Zerto Ramirez and Caleb Smith. Fuck Caleb Smith. I don't think he hits harder than Caleb Smith. Zerto Ramirez might be close to power of Triple G's, punching power, that is. I mean, this guy has grip strength like no one else. It definitely hits harder than anybody in 160. Definitely hits harder than, at this point, harder than anybody at 168. As hard as Canelo does hit, he throws a lot of torque behind his punches, and he has good technique, and that's why he broke his hand throwing those fucking shots. And he still has pop. Canelo has a lot of pop, but Canelo, I wouldn't say Canelo has the second hardest punch in the division of 168. No, I wouldn't say that. But Triple G definitely has the number one status of that. He's up there, Canelo, in punching power. But with him, when it comes out as knockouts and all the stuff that you see, it's because of his technique and how he sets up his shots. That's why. And 168, by the way, Triple G is a fucking robot, bro. You cannot hurt this motherfucker. What Canelo realized after round 9 is that he ain't gonna stop him. After that, all the punishment he's gonna give, and he's gonna obviously. There was points that were Triple G was running around, maybe once or twice, and throughout the 9 rounds or 10, 9 rounds, he was running around a little bit. Uh, that's another thing that would have made it even harder for Canelo to knock out Triple G. I was expecting a knockout because of what I saw with the Murata fight, but I also said in my last video, if Triple G at 168, a little more fat around the belly, is gonna keep him away from getting really, really hurt like he was getting hurt with Murata. And that actually worked out for his favor, and that's what prevented him from getting knocked out. But the thing is, in the 12th round, he was about to go. Like, he was holding on for dear life in the 12th round. If this was a 15-round fight, I don't know what would have happened. I think maybe Triple G wouldn't have made it. You know what I mean? It's tough to say. But Canelo showed respect and kind of he felt sympathetic at the last moment in time as an aged fighter, as an old fighter, as a great fighter, and to end the trilogy and to make the fans happy and not make it a shutout like how sometimes Tyson Fury does and just makes it such a boring fight that, and dominates his opponents. He chose to engage with him in close quarters like he did and not keep a distance like he was doing in the first half of the fight all the way to the 9th round. That's what happened in this fight for Triple G fanboys. Now, whether this comes with this technique that he applied in this fight, how would it apply to Bivol? I really can't say. I don't know because Bivol is still a master technician himself. He does not have distance control defensively. He is better than Usyk, boys and girls. He is. You know what I mean? And I don't know if Canelo was won about 3-4 rounds. It's because uh, he was pushing in, and I guess Bivol was trying to figure him out in a way in the process, pushing in, trying to get to the body, trying to hook to the uppercut to the through the guard and stuff. He was trying to do all these things, and I don't know if I don't know if Canelo's gonna play the game the same thing that he was doing against Golovkin in this fight against Bivol, where he keeps this he applies the same thing he learned from Bivol pretty much, and he uses it against Bivol to play a distance game where it's a game of inches, where your lead foot is at, and where your opponent's lead foot is at. You know what I mean? And his range, as his arm reach, where he can hit you. You know, I don't know if he's gonna play that game because if he does, they say don't hook with a hooker, right? Even if she's a nice prostitute, you know what I mean? Don't do that. Just joking. Anyways, don't jab with a jabber and all that shit. Don't play the distance game with someone that has been doing it his entire career. You know what I mean? And try to out jab him, out do all that kind of stuff. He could have done it to Triple G because Triple G is slower than him, and it was evident in both fights that he was slower than him, and the first two fights that is. And the third one made it even more example. Even it became more apparent when he applied the distance that he learned from Bivol, the better distance control, where he landed a lot of good shots, a lot of motherfuckers would have been down. You know what I mean? If Caleb Plant was in this fight, he would have been knocked out. Not 11th round, but like 7th or 8th round, he would have been finished. You know what I mean? Maybe even earlier than that. Who knows? It's Canelo is, I don't want to say he's a face of boxing. Yeah, he's usually, yeah, you can't. I mean, he is one of the faces of boxing. I can't really say he's the face of boxing. This fight is going to produce a lot more money than the Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence or Spence versus Terrence Crawford fight. But the Tyson Fury versus AJ fight is going to produce even more money, and the winner of that, the fights Usyk, is going to produce even more money and even more eyes. So like that's probably the face of boxing, but uh, it's I can't really say, man. I really don't face of boxing. Maybe you can give him that. Maybe you can call Canelo face of boxing because there's the heavyweight division is usually more prominent. Now, it's nothing against Canelo. I would like to call him the face of boxing. It's nothing against him. It just it's just it's just heavyweight is more prominent, bro. It really is. If let's say Mike Tyson was around with Canelo, even with all this performance that he's done, great performances, phenomenal, Hall of Fame type performances, would you still consider him face of boxing if Mike Tyson's around knocking out individuals in like less than 5 rounds? No, you can't. Mike Tyson's the face of boxing at that point. You know what I mean? In this case, the face of boxing, you could probably say, is between Tyson Fury and Canelo, but Tyson Fury is going to show that he is the true face of boxing, even though he's a fucking heavyweight. It's just, I know it sucks. It's just horrible. I would have preferred Canelo as a face of boxing, to be honest with you. But, you know, I prefer Canelo, but let's be honest. Let's be real. You know what I mean? Who produces more money is really the face of boxing. And, yeah, who puts more ass on seats is pretty much what it is. Canelo puts a lot of ass on seats, but Tyson Fury in his next two fights is going to produce probably more than Canelo ever would do in his entire career. You know, probably. I'm just an assumption. I'm not going to say 100%. You know what I mean? But let's forget about that. That's a different topic. So what we just saw in this fight was pretty much an old man, old Triple G versus young Canelo. You know, and Canelo was the obvious better boxer. I've been saying that he's defensively better, and that was apparent in all the other ones, all the other fights, the first and second. Remember, this is a smaller man, shorter man. They say he has a longer reach, but Canelo does not have a longer reach. Triple G does. He and he's beating up a taller, bigger man. Uh, Even if he's older, even back then, it was a close fight. The first fight was close. It was not a landslide. You know what I mean? You watch the fight carefully and you count the punches that are landed and what is prominent. What's the most important punches? Not pity patty like his glove touched, his touched his guard, like he threw a fucking jab and it touched the leather of Canelo's glove. That doesn't count. I'm talking about all the shots that landed the way it's supposed to. The ones that you're supposed to count technically. And the first one, Triple G won, and they gave it a draw by 1 round. He should, if he won by 2 rounds, they would have definitely given it to Triple G. Forget Natalie Bird. Forget Natalie Bird. The guy that gave it a draw would have given it to Triple G. I know it's tough with Canelo. That's why Bivol made it more of a landslide. You know what I mean? And won it clearly. Oh, and same thing with Mayweather. Um, Second fight was a draw. And when it's a draw, they're going to favor Canelo. I mean, it was technically a draw in many people's eyes. And I've seen both fights extensively. I've seen them a lot. And I just watched the second fight yesterday, and it's a fucking draw, bro. And this fight, Canelo improved by fighting better opposition. But the one opposition that he fought that he improved the most off of is Bivol. He learned a shit ton off of his loss. And I do not know how that fight will turn out. I would still slightly favor Bivol. Uh, but but Bivol would probably get a close fight this time around, unlike last time around, and they might give it to Canelo because it's a close fight, just like how the situation with Triple G versus Canelo the second fight, or even the first fight when they gave it a draw, it was close. But even though he won by 1 round, Lara won by 1 round. They didn't give it to Lara. You know what I mean? You need to win by 2 rounds at least against Canelo to get at least a split decision. You know what I mean? That's how it is. If you win by 3 rounds, you get it. Unanimous decision. That's what Bivol did. He did more than 3 rounds, I think. Maybe I'm gonna give him at least minimum 3 rounds. It was 8-4 or something like that. I give it 8-4. So he won by 2 rounds. Yeah, he won by 2 rounds. If you said 8-4, and if you go 9-3, it's 3 rounds. He won by 3 rounds. So some people think it's 9-3. Some people thought it was 8-4. So somewhere in that area. Anyways, um, anyways, great boxer. Do not shit on Canelo. None of his fights are fake. Except for the one fight that I know is fake is Chavez Jr., which he went easy on him. He didn't want to KO him, and I think they talked about it amongst each other. So he doesn't KO him. Chavez Jr. before he fought Triple G the first fight. You know what I mean? That's the one that I know for sure was a fake fight. It was so obvious. But the Kovalev fight, Kovalev was wary of getting countered, just like how Triple G was today. And he was in the first fight. He was also in the second fight. He was wary of getting countered. That's why he didn't throw so many shots that he could have thrown. And this is the same situation in this one. How can you nullify the one person that jabs all day, all night? Triple G. Power jabs, my man. It's because he nullified him. He was nullifying him before, but when he applied the distance, he made it even worse, which made him completely useless, made Triple G useless. He couldn't do shit. Applied with the old age, made it even worse on top of that. He mentally broke Triple G until he let him have his little fun time. Just like how Mayweather did with Pacquiao and gave him a few rounds. Let him have his little moment of glory, you know. That's all this was. It was out of sheer respect and love for who he's fighting against. Even though he hates the guy, he wanted to show his fans an entertaining fight because everybody was booing it because it was boring. It was just a one-sided beatdown. And he chose, and on top of that, showed a sheer respect for who he's fighting against. He chose to do that. he made it a close fight where he automatically got cut in the 10th round trying to decide to fight a close fight. Anyways, good fight. I didn't I don't know if I enjoyed it. Tell you this much, it ain't gonna be as exciting as AJ versus or Fury versus AJ is more like it, but or even maybe even Fury versus Usyk. But it it had its moments. I was just hoping that Canelo will be the one guy to at least knock down Triple G, but the break is him going up at 168 made him even more of a Terminator figure, bro. You cannot drop him or knock him out, at 168. At 160, he's vulnerable to the body. It's obvious. If he goes down, he's going to be vulnerable to the body. So the weight cut, he doesn't belong there. He's supposed to be 168, but, he feels like that's where he's more of competitive, you know. Because if you face someone like, for instance, like Caleb Plant, who hits and moves and hits and moves, and Caleb Plant ain't gonna knock him out, but Caleb Plant would easily win on points against someone like Triple G. He would just win on points. Triple G would have a hard time because of his short stature and everything to touch him up. Maybe he gets lucky and he drops him. A younger Triple G, on the other hand, I would have been totally different. I'm saying younger Triple G, yeah, he would have walked. He probably would have walked through Caleb Plant. But the problem is, a younger Triple G never, even an older Triple G, is never confident in his own abilities. He's never confident. That's why he never went to 160. He never was confident. That's why I lost interest in Triple G, and that's why he fights tomato cans. There's a reason why he fights tomato cans because he's not confident in his own abilities. Unlike Canelo, who is, and who constantly improves and constantly challenges himself. You know, yeah, with Bivol, and who knows, maybe one day he fights Bitterbev. I think Bitterbev would be a little step too much for him because of his stature, his size, and everything. But Bivol is more reasonable, but Bitterbev not so much reasonable. Bivol is gonna have a hard time with Bitterbev. You know what I mean? But Canelo might even he might even get knocked out by Bitter if he ever fights him. I was picking initially that Canelo would beat him because he's faster, but the thing with Bitter he doesn't show his boxing skill until he really needs to show his boxing skills. And when he does, he's usually like a fucking Triple G. He just walks through his opponents. But when he chooses to really box his opponents, you know, step back, hit, go back and forth. Not, kind of, in a way, kind of like much slower version of a Pacquiao Usyk Bivol. A lot slower, but when he hits, all it takes is like one good or two good hits with that dude, and he puts your ass out. You know what I mean? That's the problem with the Bit fighting Canelo or Bivol, either one of the two. But Bivol has a better shot to being a much better shot, and I've kind of favored Bivol to win, but it's the power of Bitterbiff that gets me like thinking, man, he might catch him, he might do this, he might do that. You know what I mean? But that's a different story, man. That's a different story. It's been the Gypsy. It's been good talking to you all. I'm going to end the stream as I say goodbye. Goodbye.